Mary, the biggest change that took place in my life after I became head of the Carter Center was the programs that we have to promote democracy and freedom in different countries. We were the first ones, for instance, that ever monitored or observed election processes in foreign countries. Now we've done it 92 different times. We go into a country that has a troubled political system. They call on the Carter Center to help. And in that process, we have to be all over those nations to learn about their past history, the candidates that qualify for office in the election we are monitoring, what they put forward as far as their campaign promises are concerned, how one party relates to another. And we get to know the people all over the nations just in the brief time, for instance, that we're in a country, say 2 or 3 months, monitoring an election that they have. Another thing that surprised me has been to get to know people in the little villages in Africa primarily, but in other countries as well, in Latin America, for instance, that live in the jungle or live in the desert in tiny communities that have very little relationship even with their own government because they're so isolated. But when we go into a country to eliminate a disease, we are actually in those villages. And the things that we see there about the people that live in an isolated life in foreign countries has been a very enlightening thing for me. I used to think, for instance, that Americans were basically, better, hard-working, maybe a little more intelligent and so forth, because we had a richer country. And I used to think that maybe that when I went to a country to help build houses for poor people on a Habitat for Humanity program, that the people that didn't have a good house should have had one if they worked as hard as I did, or if they studied as hard as I did in school, or if they were ambitious as I was, or if they worked as hard as I did, or if their family values were as good as mine, they ought to have a house. But I've found that those people who have been deprived of a home in the future that's decent, when we give them the keys to a new house that they themselves helped to build and for which they will pay the full cost without interest charges, that they're just as smart as I am and just as well oriented toward life as I am, just as ambitious as I am, just as hardworking as I am, and their values among their families are just as good as mine. So I've been kind of humbled in getting to know people around the world and to see that, in effect, all people on earth are the same in the eyes of God and should be in the eyes of each other, equal and worthy of respect and care and, I would say, love.